Whatever you're doing, stop right now, because this is it's mental. Ozone 12 new bass control module allowed me to do something that I never thought would be possible. It's not the only tool used, and I mean, I don't mean this in a bragging way, because it's not me, it's the tools who did the crazy lifting, but it's just mental. I mean, I lose my words. Okay, I'll stop talking. Let's dive into the session. I'll tell you. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it will not come true on YouTube as it is here in the studio. You need really proper subwoofers and low end control. But pay attention to how the original track, the rumble is too wide. It's vague. It's like floating around. The kick is eroded. There is no punch. The decay is short. It's like pok pok. There is no oomph. It's not bouncing. While the master version, the rumble feels thick, denser, proper mono compatible, and the kick punches through. Pay attention to all these details. Really, really, really. Before, the kick feels far away. It feels buried into, and there's only kick bass. It's not a full track. I'm only playing the first bar of the track, right? And even there, the kick feels far away. It's like in the depth of something. The whole rumble is blurry and messy. I mean, always you start to know me. I'm exaggerating to help you point into the right direction. But again, pay attention to all this and how when I turn on the bypass, everything glues together, how the rumble thickens up, how it has big balls, sorry for the language, how the kick punch is increased. The original kick feels like it's too heavily compressed with a too short attack time. It's eroded, or maybe it has been pushed into some saturator, or it's a sample ripped from a vinyl. I don't know, but it lacks of definition. It's lacking of this contrast, right? Before, and then I'll switch after. I mean, to me, that's the difference between a kick hitting an old school sound system and a kick pushing through the subs and making this rumble just grab you by the balls. So we're gonna dive through the whole process, and I'm gonna tell you what I did and how we got to this point. So I'm gonna turn off everything. Give me a sec. And bear with me. At some point, you might think that the move that I did was actually not the right one, but every move is meant with intention, and it's with the end goal in mind. So bear with me. Okay, so first, what happened? This rumble, this blurriness, and this messiness in the kick drum. So I started with an EQ, and what I did is actually the rumble was messy, both on the sides and on the mid part. I used linear phase EQ because I'm doing some mid-side processing. There is more in another video I made on bass lane. You can check it in my low-end control playlist, but whatever. So the sides, because it's very low, it's 100 Hertz, I really dipped it. I'm going to go step by step. I'm going to turn this off. And the sides, I dipped this in a static way. I wanted just to remove some of the whiz in the lows. Also, this is going to be pressed on vinyl, so until 120, 150 Hertz, stereo is not your friend, right? So let's play this in solo. Really side information that was not needed. So before, wide, and this narrows. It gives a bit more focus. We are already a bit less lost into the space of flows, right? Then I was like, yeah, okay, but I still have this mid part. I understand the idea of the tone and the quest of having something that keeps the energy going, but it feels messy. So what I did here is I ducked these mids, but I increased them dynamically with a pretty short attack time. So every time the kick is hitting, the band comes back. So I'm not reducing the punch of the kick. I'm taking out the energy from the bass that is behind. Before the dynamic, before the EQ. With the static, I lose too much information. I tame the rumble, for sure I tame the rumble, but I also tame the kick and it sounds a bit anemic, right? So with the dynamic band, the rumble comes back and I have a very short attack time. So as soon as the kick comes in, this band pops up and I have a long release time. The idea is not just to have the kick, it's to have the rumble as well, but the rumble as a kind of consequence of the kick. It's not like, let's play it with a very short release. Here the rumble is too much far away, right? And what happens now is instead of having a static rumble that is all the time there and blurring the whole thing, now the rumble is bouncing with the kick. Boom, boom, boom. Let's play before after with that EQ. Before. You might feel at this point that I went too far and that we lose part of it, but please wait. You get the point. Also, this is an interesting approach. Something I like to do, whether it's with the Pro Q or the Pro MB, it's to push things a bit too far in order to be sure that you are in the right direction. And then you can always turn things down with the mix knob, the gain, right? The gain scale. So, but first thing first, okay? So we cleaned part of that rumble with some EQ and dynamic EQ in the range where it was messy, right? But then I still feel that the kick isn't punching through. It has no bulk, it has no essence, it's a bit far away. So to gain that back, I used Newfangled Elevate, which is basically sold as a end limiter clipper. I turned off the limiter. I turned off the clipper. I use it only for the transient emphasis mode. And this is a tool that has been developed to increase transients before you hit the clipper. And it's a kind of push-pull way to psychoacoustically gain back some punch. And what I did here was turn all the bands down. I have just my two last bands here, 100 and 0. And I adjusted those two according to finding a balance that was working and then turned the overall emphasis amount. Let's listen before. I mean, again, you need quality headphones or proper sub system, but the lowest octave, the sub of the kick, the foundation of things is now it's finally there, and it's there not in a static way that like I would push an EQ. If I would push with an EQ, I would push also the bass and making the whole thing again a bit like messy. Here I'm just pushing the punch of the subs, doing a AB for the whole chain, before after, before. Much cleaner, maybe too much, we'll see later. Much cleaner, much more contrast already and density, but we're not there yet, right? So next to that, I use my trusty bass lane to control the width of things. And not only that, there is some width at 200, which is okay. So the correlation is fine. I started with my go-to setting on bass lane, which is my master low end control, but I did some tweaks here. I'll turn it on. Oh, this is interesting, right? What happens? Well, in fact, these parts are not doing much. It's really the stereo harmonics thing. Let's turn it off. And on again. So what's happening is this thing is taking information below 220 Hertz. This is the basic. And it's creating harmonics of that. And I can choose to re-inject these to the mid or to the sides, compress them, adjust the filter, and adjust the level. So what's happening is basically I'm adding mostly in the mid part, not totally, but mostly in the mid part, adding control harmonics from that sub-content. And you feel it, it's thickening up again, part of what I removed, but now, because I cleaned before I created punch, is creating harmonics that are more moving. It's not a static harmonic content, right? I'm going to play it before, after, before, and after. So now we feel back something that we had at the early stage. I'm going to play the original file now. You feel the kind of tone, this little distorted tone we had is now coming back, you know? At the early stage with the Pro Q, you might have thought, oh, he took too much out of it, and I would totally agree, but it was meant with a purpose, and to be honest, also during the mastering process, I did back and forth. I mean, I started by removing a little bit, and then I was like, okay, maybe I can add with bass lane, but then when pushing with bass lane, it was too much, so I came back into Pro Q4 and reduced it a little bit more, and so it was like playing back and forth to get back to something that was about the vibe, but cleaner, right? Playing again once before and after, before. Beautiful, right? I mean, we get back that tone, we get back that vibe, but we cleaned up a big part of the mess. We still have this rumble, it's still going on, but it's much more defined. It's working with the music, it's moving along. We get also kind of groove back already that we didn't have in the original thing. But bear with me, because the real magic happens now. First magic part is Ozone. I used the drum module, so this is kind of stem separation, and what I did here was using a compressor to compress the kick, because as I said, I felt the kick was still a bit like eroded. So to find back some punch, I compressed it, but with a medium attack time, 50 milliseconds. That's not very short, that's not very long either, it's medium, so it keeps a bit of the beef, a bit of the body. Usually below 10 milliseconds you only have clicks. From 10 to 30 milliseconds you start to bring up a bit of the body, and from 30 to let's say 80, there is where the thickness of the elements is due to just time and frequency spectrum, links, whatever. So this is where you can get back of the body. And so I compress it heavily. I mean, it's heavily compressed, but it's just shaving off, I think, 1 or 2 dB. So it's just like the top of the transients that are taken down, but they are not, the transients are not taken down because the attack is longer. So we will actually push the gain after. So what is happening is, instead of having a triangular shape, I will now push this first 50 milliseconds and then take the sound and then come back. So this will print some groove and will get back some punch as well in the kick. We had Newfangled that was working as more as a transient enhancer, and this is thickening and making it more compact. Before, after, let's listen. If you pay attention, even the tail now is moving. We had the tail that was more decaying flat, and we start to hear back some oomfa, oomfa. This is the release time getting out. So we have a little increase of the punch and the tail that is starting to move along. So again, now I'm going to do before after of the whole chain. I mean, this is already pretty gorgeous, right? And at this point, I would say I was very happy. But I felt things could still be a bit improved. So I dialed in some multiband. It seems like it's doing a lot, but not that much. And so this was for wider area because I wanted to print some groove in the rumble as well, and I felt it was still a bit too static. And here you see the whole thing has been, the whole range has been dipped. I'm gonna put the this is really the whole beefiness of the kick. It's the body. It's not only the subs. Here it's a whole body happening. And the way it works is I lowered the bend a little bit and I'm expanding it now. So every time the kick hits, and yeah, also important thing, I didn't put it in band mode, but I put it in free audition. So the sidechain target for that dynamic expansion is really like this. Why not the subs? Because the subs are decaying longer and I wanted a better control. And this is really like the punch of the kick. The punch of the kick is triggering the whole band to pop out. And here again, we are cleaning a bit the medium range of the rumble. It's more impactful. The kick keeps the impact, but the whole rumble comes back a bit behind. Why? Because I felt it was still a bit messy in the, I would say, 250-300 hertz area somehow. At this point, I was very happy of the feeling of the track, of the feeling of the kick, of the punch, and of the clarity I gained at the mastering stage. But I felt that in terms of respecting the track, if we would play the original one, there was a balance between the rumble and the kick. There was a density that we lost somehow. Now the rumble, I mean, the kick was too far away, right? It was lacking of punch. We brought them both together. The rumble was blurring things. We put it lower, but now it felt like the track was more only kick, to say so, right? It's not kick and rumble. It's too much only kick. Before, I like how the rumble medium range was tamed, but I felt now in the sub, the kick was playing alone and it was lacking of density. And here is where Ozone 12 came in lovely with the bass control module. With the bass control module, what I did was increase the sustain when the kick was not playing. So increase the sustain of the rumble, but very low. It's at 170 hertz stops. The problem area was around 115. So I'm really like gaining density and thickness until the area that was blurring my mix, making things unclear. Now first I will add the sustain, so get back the subs and the density of the rumble, right? Here I gain back the lower octave of the rumble. So it feels like instead of having a rumble that was weak at, let's say 20 to 70, 80 hertz, and then too strong between 80 and 120, now I just tilted the thickness of the rumble, but instead of having it static, because it's a dynamic process and because I first increased the kick and compressed things, I created movement. And so now the rumble is answering to the kick. Instead of being there all the time, it's coming when the kick decays. And this is making a really thick and at the same time defined, separated rumble. So then I felt that I could even add a little bit of punch, and then the whole thing was a bit too loud, so I reduced the whole loudness before after. And here now, in terms of vibe of psychoacoustical representation of sound, we get back the original feeling of kick and rumble. The rumble is strong. The rumble is not way below the kick. It is there. And this is what I wanted. But I wanted this in a clean and separated way. Let's play now the whole thing before and after. The kick punches through, it has impact, it has movement, it has this kind of dynamic groove. The rumble, instead of being blurry and on the sides and messing up with the punch of the kick, is below the punch, but supports in the subs the kick. I mean, to my taste at least, it is really beautiful. It conveyed the same intention and the same musical choice, the same taste the artist wanted. But instead of translating in a blurry and muddy way, it cleaned the whole things up while preserving the vibe, while preserving the musical ID. And this is something really important. Yes, it's a strong move, and I don't know if it's going to be accepted by the artist. So I'm sharing this like right off the bat. But this is what I try to do sometimes, and this is a hard case where, as I said, the revision was not possible. This should all have been much easier if it was addressed in the mix, dipping a bit the rumble, doing a bit more sidechain, removing the sides of the reverb a little bit, or compressing the reverb. I mean, there are many ways to achieve this kind of result in the mixing stage. Yet being able to do this at mastering today is just, yeah, it's mental and it's beautiful. I have to say, I love it. So I really hope the artist will agree and will sign on this master, because I think it makes a huge difference. And I'm sure that when playing this into a club environment, it will change the whole feeling, how impactful, how it will move your chest, because this lower rumble that is now moving and present and thick and dense, and yet the kick is punching through. So yeah, I hope it was helpful. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I enjoyed getting to that stage. I think there is an interesting takeaway of how every move, every step is working into some direction, and none of those steps are mandatory, yet every step is adding a little bit to the game until the end result. And the end result is always with music in mind. It's not only about technical thing, it's about how you can convey the musical intention. And this is something that is super important for me, is getting the technical aspect to support the story, to support the music. So if you like this content, as usual, leave a little like, follow the channel if you're not doing this yet, share this video to some friends. Any help, any visibility is always helpful. If you need some masters done, of course, with a big pleasure, reach out to me via my website. And for the rest, yeah, take care and see you the next time. Cheers.